Hello friends, it's Shadow Ready here, playing some more World of Warships today, or more, teaching World of Warships. Today we're going to be talking about how to have map tactics for a submarine. So, subs are a very unique class, and everybody has their own opinion on them, let's just say. But we're going to be very strategic today, and also, just to note, the new nerf to them has just been applied. So basically, if you don't know, if you're within basically 3 kilometers, you can't shotgun a battleship anymore or anything like that. So just be aware of that. So that's what we're going to be kind of using that as the mindset, because used to you could like sneak up to people and then basically just kind of one-shot them, but that tactic is not usable anymore. Alright, so with subs, it's a very different game, to be honest with you. So with subs, I would say you can technically go straight into the middle of the capture points if you want to. You just have to make sure that you are not using sonar pings. That's the most crucial thing, is just try not to use your sonar ping, at least in the very beginning, because as you can see, all the teams are going to be bunched up together, and whenever that happens, that just allows them to all airdrop on you all at once, because once you make that little cloud, say you ping and then you make a little cloud like that, everybody knows and everybody's going to be targeting you around that area, you know. So I know that was a little drastic, but that is the truth. So with the subs, you can go into the capture point. You could be at periscope depth spotting for people. You can dive down and basically kind of go from there. Now, it depends on how aggressive you want to be. I've seen it where I've seen a sub basically go all the way around, and we're doing flanking shots behind them, because like they allowed the enemy team to come this way, and then they kind of like came back over here and used their flanking shots. So it's up to you on how you want to be aggressive on that. Just note, if you are in this area right here, you have no support. You're going to be on your own, which is what a sub technically is usually on its own. So that's the big thing. That's the first thing. The other thing too, if you go into this area over here, be careful if you run into the carrier, because if you run into the carrier, you're basically dead, because it has a auto submarine anti-device type of thing, I guess you could say. They would just drop a ton of depth charges on you and you just instantly die. There's no chance for you. So just be mindful of any carriers that are heading your way. But for the most part, I've seen people go around and do a lot of flanking shots. I've seen others where they're able to sneak up with in between islands. So like this would be a good spot here if I was on this side, to at least kind of spot and then potentially torpedo. But I would just be cautious too, because you could still, this is an area where it's known for a lot of destroyers too, so just be mindful of that. The biggest thing is you have a lot more flexibility at the beginning of the game, which is nice. So you can make it to the middle of the capture point, at least in the middle of the zone, and for the most part, as long as you are not physically shooting off radar pings, you're pretty much undetected, unless there's another sub in here as well. Because 9 times out of 10, destroyers would not, well, I take it back. This is World of Warships. Destroyers will try to go into the middle of the capture point. So just wait off like 2 minutes if you want to wait and see once all the destroyers are gone. And then you can push into the capture points and capture those points. So then as the game is going on, let's say we made it past 5 minutes. This is where you start becoming a little bit dangerous, and where you can either be on the enemy's flank. So like this example over here where I said you went around here. Now you have all this free area to start using your sonar pings and that type of stuff to try to at least make these ships, like right here, let's say that battleship went down here. He's then gonna turn because you're pinging him, because you're roughly broadside, right? I'm being very generous. So he's going to be turning away from your torpedoes. This opens up so much for your enemy team if they're still like in this area or right down here. So that just means free broad shots to the other side, and free citadels potentially. So that's one way of thinking about it, is trying to make where you're in a position where if you fire torpedoes, you're going to make the team or that ship turn to present more of its broadside to your team. That's one way of doing it. I do not suggest going kind of like suiciding, I guess you could say, or getting up close and personal, especially now with the nerf. Whenever you get within 3 kilometers, that's really hurting you on that. So open sea is probably your best bet. So basically, if I was over here and I have all of this area, type of thing where I could patrol and do my thing. I would probably limit it. I probably wouldn't go past up here area because that just seems a little bit of a waste unless their whole entire team went up there for some reason. But for the most part, once you have that flank, you're pretty much free to do whatever you want to do. Just try not to get caught out, especially if you put too much attention on yourself. If you target one battleship and then you target another cruiser, you're going to be really a sitting duck pretty soon. So let's rewind just a little bit. So we're still like here. So you could either, like what I was saying, you can either keep pushing forward here, trying to spot and then keep contesting or just delaying people. I wouldn't use radar pings too much. You can if you want, just depends on the situation. But if I go this way, I would try to be as stealthy as possible so that I could just at least spot for my team. And then you also have the other option where you can kind of come back around here, if needed to support your team. If you can see that this flank has been deteriorated, you can then get yourself into a position where it's a flanking type of thing, like right here or something like that, while the enemy team's pushing down. So it's just going to be dependent on what you feel comfortable with. I will admit, you can get away with a lot more things in a sub because all you have to do is just dive. But also, you are literally the #1 target whenever they see you on the map. It used to be destroyers, but now it's subs, and they will launch all of their planes, depth charge planes. Send their destroyers after you just so that they can just deal with that threat. So that's just one thing to keep cautious. So try to pick one target at a time. If there's like a cluster, like say this is still the cluster here, I would not try to engage any of them unless you know that this cruiser and this cruiser is not paying attention whatsoever and you're only dealing with the battleship. That would be the only thing, and only reasonable. I know it's World of Warships, so you never know what you're going to deal with, but that is kind of like the overall tips. The later on the game is you also want to make sure to conserve your battery. So if you've made this flank over here, make sure you're at periscope depth and not using your sonar pings to launch torpedoes at anybody, because that drains your battery instantly. So you could do one of two things. You could always retreat, gain back your battery here, and then engage, or you can come up here, spot, at periscope depth, still try to get your battery, and then engage. So that's the thing. It's just you want to make sure that you preserve your battery. Every nation's going to be a little bit different on how bad their battery is being consumed. So just learn your sub pretty much. But basically, there's a lot of options and a lot of freedom with subs. It's just because of this whole mechanic of going underwater and not being detected. It's really great. So basically, as long as you survive the first 3 to 5 minutes, then you're very, very annoying and very dangerous. It's that first initial 3 minutes where I've seen like subs just come down here in the middle and they ping because the battleship's here. They ping, and then there's a cruiser here, and then that battleship too, and then they're all just targeting you, and that's where you have the biggest issues that I've seen. So just try to survive the first 3 to 5 minutes, and 9 times out of 10 you're gonna do amazing things. Just be careful on trying to be too cocky, if that makes sense. You're basically a lone wolf. You're playing a single player game versus this whole entire enemy team, so just be careful of that. With that being said, I know this one was pretty vague because honestly it is pretty vague for subs, and Hopefully you guys enjoy. Let me know down in the comment sections what you want to see next. And then also, here's another video. I don't know which side, but here's another video of map tactics. Thanks. Bye-bye.